I was about 15 when it happened. It was summer, sometime in July, and my family had gone to visit relatives near Waco, Texas. They lived on a quiet little block that had once been a nice neighborhood but had slowly fallen apart over the years. Every house looked a little tired, paint peeling, grass dying, windows covered in dust. At the end of that street stood a house everyone called the dead home. It had been abandoned for as long as anyone could remember. Boarded up windows, the front door sealed shut, the roof half collapsed on one side. Every kid in the neighborhood had a story about it. Some said a family used to live there until something terrible happened. Others claimed it was haunted. But mostly people just avoided it. That house was something we all stared at but never really talked about until that afternoon. It was one of those long, hot Texas days where the air felt like it was pressing down on you. The adults were inside, talking and playing cards, completely unaware that their kids were bored out of their minds. There were 5 of us cousins hanging around outside, kicking at rocks, drinking soda, and talking about nothing. Then my oldest cousin Amanda pointed down the street at the boarded-up house and said, "Let's go inside." At first we laughed. I thought she was joking, but she wasn't. Within minutes, that silly idea became a plan. Someone grabbed a couple of flashlights from the garage, and before I could think it through, we were walking toward the house. I remember the sound of cicadas getting quieter as we got closer, as if even the bugs didn't want to be near that place. When we reached it, the air smelled different, heavier, like old dust and wet wood. The side window had been broken at some point, with the boards hanging loose. Amanda shone her flashlight through it, and the light disappeared into the darkness. She grinned and said, "Come on." We climbed through one by one, landing on the creaking wooden floor inside. The first thing I noticed was the smell. It was a thick, stale odor, a mix of rot, mold, and something faintly metallic. The kind of smell that sticks to the back of your throat. The living room felt frozen in time, furniture covered in dust. A recliner still faced the TV, its fabric torn open as if something had clawed at it. Old photographs hung crooked on the walls, each face faded, their smiles blurred. It didn't feel like we'd entered an empty house. It felt like we were intruding. We wandered through the rooms, our flashlights cutting through the darkness. The walls were covered in stains and the wallpaper hung loose. Every step made the floor groan beneath us. Amanda, being Amanda, decided to make things worse by telling a story. She said the man who had lived there had gone crazy one night, that he had murdered his wife and kids and then killed himself. She claimed it happened right there in the main bedroom and that no one ever cleaned it up properly. The police boarded the place and no one ever moved in again. We rolled our eyes at her story, but it made the air feel colder. When we reached the hallway, we stopped at the largest bedroom. That's when we saw it, a vast dark stain spread across the middle of the carpet. It was brownish red, old and dry, but unmistakably out of place. The rest of the carpet was pale gray, torn in spots, but this mark looked soaked into the floor. Amanda pointed at it with her flashlight and said, "That's where he did it." 2 of my younger cousins freaked out and said they were leaving. They climbed back through the window without another word. That left 3 of us, me, Amanda, and our cousin Riley. I remember the silence in that hallway. It wasn't the usual silence. It felt as if the whole house was holding its breath. Riley tried to laugh it off, but her voice sounded small. Amanda stood near the doorway, still shining her light over the stain. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. I wanted to go, but I didn't have a flashlight. When I told Amanda to lead the way out, she just smirked and said, "You scared?" I said no, but the truth was, yeah, I was. The air felt thick, as if something invisible was watching us. I decided to leave anyway. I turned down the hall, trying to remember where the window was. I could see faint daylight ahead, just enough to guide me. My shoes made soft thuds against the carpet. Then I heard it, a soft sound like someone dragging their feet behind me. I froze. I thought maybe Riley was following me, but when I turned around, she was standing with Amanda at the far end of the hall, their flashlights still aimed at the bedroom. The sound came again, slow, uneven steps on the carpet. I felt the tiny hairs on my neck stand up. Then something pulled my hair. It wasn't a gentle tug, a sharp yank that made me stumble forward. I yelled, "Stop it," thinking one of them had snuck up behind me. But when I turned, the hallway was empty. Amanda and Riley hadn't moved. That's when Riley screamed. She ran toward me, tripping over the torn carpet, and grabbed my arm. Her flashlight had gone out, so we were both standing in near darkness. Amanda still had her light, but she wasn't moving. She was staring straight down the hallway toward the bedroom doorway. I whispered, "Amanda?" No answer. Then her voice came out, shaky, barely a whisper. "There's someone there." I followed her gaze, and for a split second I saw what she meant. A shadow stood in the doorway. Not a trick of the light, an actual shape. Tall, thin, its shoulders hunched slightly as if it had been waiting there the whole time. It didn't move, but the air around it felt heavier, pressing against us, making it hard to breathe. Amanda gasped and took a step back. Then everything happened at once. The flashlight flickered. Riley screamed again. Amanda turned to run, and something yanked her hair so hard she slammed into the wall. The flashlight hit the floor and rolled away, its beam spinning wildly across the ceiling before landing on the stain in the carpet. And for a heartbeat, I thought I saw movement, like something shifting beneath that stain, as if the floor itself was breathing. We didn't think. We just ran. We scrambled through the broken window, cutting our hands on the edges. I don't even remember hitting the ground, just running across the yard, the sound of our feet pounding against the dirt. When we finally reached the road, Amanda was crying. She didn't talk. She just sat on the curb, shaking. I remember her whispering, "He was there. He was standing there." I didn't believe her at first. I told myself it was our imagination. Shadows, fear, maybe the smell of rot messing with our heads. But Amanda's fear wasn't fake. She was pale, trembling, her eyes glassy. She said she saw a man standing in that doorway, half in the light, half in the dark. She said he moved toward her, not fast but deliberate. And when she turned to run, something yanked her backwards, like a hand had wrapped around her hair. She said she heard a low growl behind her, a deep, human sound that vibrated in her chest. I didn't say anything, because deep down I'd heard it too. That night we didn't tell the adults. None of us could, but Amanda couldn't sleep. I woke up around 2 a.m. and saw her sitting by the window, staring outside. When I asked her what she was doing, she said she thought she saw someone standing at the end of the street, a tall figure near where the house was. When I looked, there was nothing there. Just the quiet street, the dim glow of a flickering street light, and shadows stretching across the road. But I remember that feeling, that same heavy stillness we'd felt inside the house, pressing against the window glass. 4 days afterwards, Amanda wouldn't talk about it. Whenever someone mentioned that house, she'd go pale and change the subject. Eventually, everyone stopped bringing it up. Years passed. We grew older. The neighborhood changed. Some of the old houses were torn down and new families moved in. But that boarded-up house stayed the same, silent, untouched, waiting. Then one summer, another cousin, one of the younger ones who hadn't gone in with us, decided to explore it with her friends. She told me about it years later, her voice shaking. She said the moment they stepped inside, they heard a man and woman arguing, loud, angry voices echoing through the house. But when they turned their flashlights on, the place was empty, just dust and silence. Then they heard footsteps in the hallway, dragging footsteps. They ran before they could see anything. A month later, the city tore the place down. They bulldozed everything, the house, the foundation, even the trees around it. A duplex was built there a few years later with fresh paint and clean lawns, kids playing outside like nothing had ever happened. But every time I visit Waco and drive down that street, I notice something strange. The grass where the old house used to stand is darker. The air there feels heavier, quieter. Sometimes when the wind blows, it carries a faint smell of damp wood and dust, that same smell that filled the house the day we went inside. Amanda still remembers it. She says she still dreams about that man, standing in the doorway, motionless, watching her. In her dreams, his face is always hidden, but she can feel him smiling. She wakes up sweating, her scalp tingling like her hair's being pulled. Once, years after it all happened, she found something strange while cleaning her old jewelry box. A small clump of hair tangled around the chain of a bracelet. It was her hair. The same bracelet she'd lost the day we went into that house. She never told anyone else, just me. She burned it that same night. Sometimes I think about going back there, to stand on that empty patch of land and see if I still feel it. But every time I imagine it, I think that same cold weight behind me, that same pressure in my chest. I know it's gone. The house doesn't exist anymore. But some places don't let go just because the walls are gone. They hold on to what happened, to whom was it, and to whoever walked away. I tell myself it was just fear, that our minds created something that wasn't really there. But then I remember the pull in my hair, Amanda's scream, and that shape in the doorway. And I realize, whatever was in that house that day didn't just vanish when we left. It's still there, waiting,